Question 1. Medical Affairs Fundamentals. The role of medical affairs in healthcare involves several responsibilities. One of these key responsibilities is to ensure the medical strategy aligns with the overall business goals while maintaining ethical standards. A medical affairs specialist is tasked with coordinating between clinical development, regulatory affairs, and commercial teams. Which of the following is the primary responsibility of a medical specialist when collaborating with these teams? A. Supervising the sales and marketing teams for product promotions. B. Ensuring clinical study protocols are followed during trials. C. Establishing pricing strategies for drugs and devices. D. Developing promotional campaigns to boost product visibility. Answer: B. Ensuring clinical study protocols are followed during trials. Explanation: a medical affairs specialist plays a vital role in supporting the integration of scientific and clinical evidence across various teams. They must ensure that clinical study protocols are adhered to in order to maintain the integrity and scientific validity of clinical trials. This responsibility helps ensure that the trial results are both scientifically valid, compliant with regulations. The other options are incorrect because A. Sales and marketing teams are handled by the commercial division, not medical affairs, which focuses on scientific and clinical issues. C. Pricing strategies are typically determined by market access teams and not directly by medical affairs. D. Promotional campaigns are handled by the marketing teams, while medical affairs focuses on the ethical communication of scientific information. Question 2. Scenario-based question. Clinical trial design and management. Dr. Laura is working as a medical affairs specialist at a pharmaceutical company, and she is responsible for managing the medical aspect of a clinical trial for a new oncology drug. The trial has reached phase 3, and Dr. Laura is reviewing data that suggests the drug has a strong efficacy in treating the targeted cancer type, but also shows an increased risk. Severe adverse events, particularly in patients with underlying heart conditions. Given this scenario, what is Dr. Laura's best course of action according to regulatory guidelines for medical affairs? A. She should proceed with the trial without any modifications, as the efficacy results are strong enough to justify continuing. B. She should consult with the regulatory team to evaluate the potential risks and benefits and consider a risk management plan. C. She should immediately halt the trial to prevent further adverse events, regardless of the drug's efficacy. D. She should send a communication to the marketing team to begin preparing promote materials highlighting the efficacy results. Answer: B. She should consult with the regulatory team to evaluate the potential risks and benefits and consider a risk management plan. Explanation: in this scenario, Dr. Laura must balance the potential benefits and risks of the drug. Regulatory agencies, such as the FDA, emphasize the importance of conducting a benefit-risk analysis in cases where safety concerns arise during clinical trials. A risk management plan would mitigate the risks associated with the drug while ensuring that it continues to provide value for patients. Consulting with the regulatory team is essential to ensure compliance with regulations and to make informed decisions about the trial's progression. The other options are incorrect because A. Proceeding without addressing the adverse events could result in significant patient harm and regulatory non-compliance. C. While halting the trial may seem like option, it should only be done after evaluating the risks and consulting with relevant teams, not immediately. D. Promoting a drug before ensuring its safety could lead to severe ethical and regulatory issues. Question 3. Regulatory and compliance issues. Pharmacovigilance plays a crucial role in ensuring the safety of pharmaceutical products after they enter the market. According to FDA and EMA guidelines, which of the following is a key requirement for handling adverse events in pharmacovigilance? A. Adverse events should be reported only if they are life-threatening or result in permanent injury. B. All adverse events, regardless of severity, must be reported to the regulatory authorities within a specified time frame. C. Reporting adverse events is only necessary for clinical trials, not post-market surveillance. D. Adverse events should be kept confidential and information should only be shared with patients who report them. Answer: B. All adverse events, regardless of severity, must be reported to the regulatory authorities within a specified time frame. Explanation: Pharmacovigilance requires the reporting of all adverse events, regardless of their severity, as per FDA and EMA guidelines. These events must be submitted to regulatory authorities like the FDA through the FDA Adverse Event Reporting System, FES, within a specific time frame. This ensures all potential risks associated with A drug are continuously monitored and evaluated. Timely reporting enables authorities to assess the safety profile of a drug, leading to necessary actions such as labeling updates, product recalls, or safety communications. The other options are incorrect because A. Reporting is required for all adverse events, not just life-threatening ones. C. Adverse event reporting is crucial both during clinical and in the post-market phase. D. Adverse events should be reported to regulatory authorities, not just kept confidential or shared only with patients. Question 4. Medical communications. Dr. Samuel, a medical affairs specialist, is preparing a clinical study report for a new drug that aims to treat a rare genetic disorder. The data from the clinical trial is highly promising, demonstrating a significant reduction in symptoms. However, during the trial, a small but concerning number of participants experienced severe side effects. Dr. Samuel is tasked with writing the report for submission, both internal stakeholders and regulatory authorities. What is the most appropriate strategy for Dr. Samuel to follow in addressing the adverse effects in the report? A. He should downplay the adverse effects to ensure the drug is seen positively. B. He should focus solely on the positive results, leaving out any mention of the adverse effects. C. He should provide a balanced discussion, clearly outlining the efficacy of the drug while also highlighting the adverse effects and proposing risk mitigation strategies. D. He should omit all adverse effects from the report to avoid drawing attention to them. Answer. C. He should provide a balanced discussion, clearly outlining the efficacy of the drug while also highlighting the adverse effects and proposing risk mitigation strategies. Explanation. Ethical communication of scientific data is crucial in medical affairs. A comprehensive and transparent clinical study report should provide an honest representation of both the benefits and risks of a drug. Dr. Samuel must present the data accurately, emphasize both the promising results and the risks associated with the treatment. He should also suggest strategies for managing these risks, such as risk minimization plans, to ensure the safety of the patients. Regulatory authorities expect full disclosure of adverse effects to assess the overall risk-benefit ratio. The other options are incorrect because downplaying the adverse effects would compromise the integrity of the report and violate ethical guidelines. Omitting the adverse effects entirely could lead to significant regulatory issues and damage trust in the scientific integrity of the study. D. Omitting adverse effects is unethical and could result in legal consequences if discovered later. Question 5. Evidence-based medicine. A medical affairs team is reviewing a new meta-analysis that compares the effectiveness of two treatment options for a chronic autoimmune disorder. The analysis reveals a small benefit for one treatment, but the results are statistically insignificant with overlapping confidence intervals. Based on the principles of evidence-based medicine, which of the following conclusions is most appropriate for the medical affairs team? Draw when communicating these results to clinicians. A. The treatment with the small benefit should be recommended because it shows any positive result, even if statistically insignificant. B. The treatment should be considered equally effective because there is no statistical difference despite the small benefit in one group. C. The medical affairs team should recommend against using the treatment with the small benefit as it is not statistically significant. D. The results are inconclusive and further studies are needed before making any recommendations. Answer. D. The results are inconclusive and further studies are needed before making any recommendations. Explanation. In evidence-based medicine, it is important to make clinical recommendations based on statistically significant results. In this case, although one treatment shows a small benefit, the result is not statistically significant and the confidence intervals overlap. This means there is no clear evidence that one treatment is superior to the other. Appropriate course of action is to suggest that further research is needed to clarify the results before making any clinical recommendations. The use of inconclusive evidence for treatment recommendations would be unethical and could lead to suboptimal patient outcomes. The other options are incorrect because A. A treatment showing a small benefit that is not statistically significant should not be recommended without further evidence. B. Equal effectiveness cannot be concluded when one treatment shows a small benefit that is not statistically significant. C. The medical affairs team should not recommend against a treatment solely because of a lack of statistical significance, or rather, further research is needed to clarify its potential. Question 6. Pharmacovigilance and safety. The pharmaceutical company has received multiple reports of a serious adverse event related to one of its newly launched drugs. The adverse event, a severe allergic reaction, was observed in patients with a specific genetic marker which was not initially identified in the clinical trials. The company is now in the post-market phase and must assess the risk to patients according to pharmacovigilance regulations. What is the most appropriate course of action for the company to take? A. The company should immediately remove the drug from the market to prevent further adverse events. B. The company should issue a warning for patients with the specific genetic marker and continue monitoring for additional cases. C. The company should ignore the reports and continue with its marketing efforts. D. The company should only conduct further investigations if more severe cases are reported. Answer: B. The company should issue a warning for patients with the specific genetic marker and continue monitoring for additional cases. Explanation: pharmacovigilance requires that any potential risks associated with a drug be addressed promptly and transparently. In this case, the drug has been linked to a serious adverse event in patients with a specific genetic marker, and the company must take immediate action to protect these patients. The appropriate course of action is to issue a warning regarding the drug's use in patients with the genetic marker while continuing to monitor the safety of the drug in the broader population. Regulatory authorities require such actions to mitigate risk while ensuring patient safety. The other options are incorrect because A. Immediate market removal is not always necessary unless the risk is overwhelmingly high or no mitigation strategies are possible. C. Ignore reports would violate ethical and regulatory standards for drug safety. D. Pharmacovigilance requires active investigation of all reported adverse events, not just waiting for additional severe cases. Question 7. Market access and health economics. A pharmaceutical company is launching a new cancer treatment drug and needs to engage with payers and health technology assessment (ETA) agencies to secure reimbursement for the drug. The company has conducted a cost-effectiveness analysis which demonstrates that the drug provides substantial benefit for patients but is more expensive than current treatments. How should the company position the drug? Discussions with payers and HTA agencies. A. The company should emphasize the high cost of the drug, assuming the increased benefit will justify the price. B. The company should focus on demonstrating the long-term health economic value of the drug, including improved quality of life and potential cost savings in the long run. C. The company should minimize the drug's cost by offering discounts to payers to secure reimbursement quickly. D. The company should avoid discussing the drug's cost and focus solely on the clinical outcomes to persuade payers to approve reimbursement. Answer: B. The company should focus on demonstrating the long-term health economic value of the drug, including improved quality of life and potential cost savings in the long run. Explanation: when discussing reimbursement with payers and HTA agencies, the company must present a comprehensive economic analysis that demonstrates the drug's value beyond just its upfront cost. Cost-effectiveness analysis that includes long-term benefits, improved patient outcomes, quality of life, and potential reductions in long-term healthcare costs is crucial. Payers and HTA agencies are often willing to reimburse treatments that provide substantial clinical benefit and demonstrate overall value, even if they are initially more expensive. The other options are incorrect because A. Focusing solely on the high cost without demonstrating long-term value will not convince payers to cover the drug. Offering discounts could undermine the perceived value of the drug and does not address the long-term benefits necessary for reimbursement discussions. D. Avoiding the cost discussion entirely would limit the company's ability to present full economic picture of the drug's value. Question 8. Regulatory and compliance issues. A pharmaceutical company is developing a new drug for diabetes management and is preparing to submit its regulatory filing to the FDA. As part of the filing process, the company must ensure that all promotional materials, including advertisements and educational brochures, comply with FDA regulations. Which of the following statements accurately describes the key regulatory requirements for these materials? A. Promotional materials can only discuss the benefits of the drug and should not mention any potential risks. B. All promotional materials must be balanced, presenting both the benefits and risks of the drug in a manner that is consistent with the clinical data. C. The company can freely advertise the drug's efficacy in any format as long as the materials are approved by the marketing department. D. The FDA does not require any review promotional materials before they are published to the public. Answer: B. All promotional materials must be balanced, presenting both the benefits and risks of the drug in a manner that is consistent with the clinical data. Explanation: FDA regulations mandate that promotional materials for pharmaceutical products must present a fair and balanced view of the drug's benefits and risks. These materials must be consistent with the approved labeling and clinical data and should not mislead healthcare providers. patients about the drug's safety or efficacy. The FDA reviews promotional materials to ensure compliance with these guidelines, and failure to do so can result in regulatory sanctions. The other options are incorrect because A. Omitting risks from promotional materials violates FDA regulations and can mislead consumers and healthcare providers. C. Promotional materials must not be approved solely by the marketing department. A regulatory review to ensure compliance with safety and efficacy standards. D. FDA review of promotional materials is mandatory to ensure they meet regulatory standards before distribution. Question 9. Product lifecycle management. During the post-market phase of a newly approved drug, the company's medical affairs team is tasked with collecting real-world evidence to better understand the drug's long-term effects in the general population. The team is considering several data sources, including patient registries, electronic health records, and claims data. Which of the following considerations is most important when using to support ongoing product lifecycle management? A. The data should be from randomized controlled trial (RET) to ensure the results are generalizable. B. The data should be from real-world settings but must be carefully analyzed to account for biases, such as selection bias and confounding. ERA cannot be used for lifecycle management as it only applies to pre-market clinical trials. EDURA should only be used if it supports positive findings about the drug's efficacy and safety. Answer. B. The data should be from real-world settings but must be carefully analyzed to account for biases, such as selection bias and confounding. Explanation. Real-world evidence can be a powerful tool in post-market surveillance, offering insights into how a drug performs outside the controlled environment of a clinical trial. However, because ERU is often collected from observational studies, it is crucial to account for confounding factors, selection bias, and other potential sources of bias when analyzing this data. Careful statistical methods and study designs are necessary to ensure that the findings are reliable and can inform decisions related to the drug's lifecycle management. ERU can provide valuable insights into long-term safety, effectiveness, and potential off-label uses of a drug, but it must be carefully evaluated to ensure valid conclusions. The other options are incorrect because RET data is highly reliable. ERU is often used specifically because it reflects outcomes in real-world settings where randomized trials may not be feasible. ERU is crucial for life cycle management and is used in post-market monitoring to assess the long-term effects of a drug. It is not limited to pre-market clinical trials. ERU should be used to assess all outcomes, including both positive and negative results. Selectively using data that supports only positive findings would be unethical and misleading. Question 10. Clinical trial design and methodology. Dr. Maria, a medical affairs specialist, is reviewing the design of a new Phase 3 clinical trial for a medication intended to treat patients with chronic heart failure. The trial uses a placebo-controlled double-blind design, with the primary endpoint being the reduction in the rate of hospitalization due to heart failure exacerbations. However, the trial protocol has been criticized for not including quality of life (QOL) measures, even though QOL is a critical concern for patients with this condition. Which of the following is the best course of action for Dr. Maria to address this issue? A. The trial protocol should be amended to include QOL measures as secondary endpoints to provide a more comprehensive assessment of the drug's impact on patients. B. The trial should continue without QOL measures since the primary endpoint of hospitalization rates is sufficient. C. The trial should be cancelled and new trial should be designed to focus exclusively on QOL outcomes. D. The trial should include QOL measures as part of the exploratory analysis but not as primary or secondary endpoint. Answer A. The trial protocol should be amended to include QOL measures as secondary endpoints to provide a more comprehensive assessment of the drug's impact on patients. Explanation. Quality of life is an important consideration in chronic conditions such as heart failure, and it is essential to assess how treatment affects patients' daily functioning, symptoms, and overall well-being. Although the primary endpoint in this study focuses on hospitalization rates, it is critical to include QOL measures as secondary endpoints to provide broader understanding of the drug's impact. This would help inform healthcare providers and patients about the full benefits of the medication. The inclusion of QOL as secondary endpoints is common practice in clinical trials for chronic conditions. The other options are incorrect because B. While hospitalization rates are important, excluding QOL measures would limit the trial's ability to fully evaluate the drug's impact on patients' lives. C. Cancelling the trial would not be appropriate since the primary endpoint is relevant. but it could be strengthened by adding call measures. D. Including call measures as part of an exploratory analysis would not provide the rigorous data needed to demonstrate the drug's effects on patient well-being in a clear, actionable way. Question 11. Regulatory compliance and advertising. A pharmaceutical company is preparing to launch a new prescription medication and is developing advertisements for healthcare providers. The marketing team suggests focusing on the drug's superior efficacy in treating specific disease, but the team is unsure about how to present the drug's risks and side effects in compliance with FDA guidelines. What is the best course of action for the company to that the advertisement complies with FDA regulations? A. The advertisement should emphasize the drug's efficacy while mentioning the risks briefly in fine print. B. The advertisement should include both the benefits and risks of the drug, ensuring that the presentation is clear and balanced in accordance with the FDA's fair balance requirement. C. The advertisement can focus on only the drug's benefits, as long as the risks are discussed during the physician-patient consultation. D. The advertisement should avoid any risks to ensure positive impression of the drug. Answer. B. The advertisement should include both the benefits and risks of the drug, ensuring that the presentation is clear and balanced in accordance with the FDA's fair balance requirement. Explanation. FDA regulations require that promotional materials, including advertisements, present balanced view of drugs, benefits and risks. The fair balance rule ensures that the presentation of both the advantages and potential risks is clear and understandable. Healthcare professionals. This helps prevent misleading advertising and ensures that patients and providers can make well-informed decisions based on the full picture of the drug's efficacy and safety profile. The other options are incorrect because A. Mentioning risks in fine print is insufficient and could be deemed misleading by the FDA. C. The advertisement cannot solely focus on the benefits without providing adequate information on risks, as this violate FDA guidelines. D. Omitting any mention of risks is unethical and illegal under FDA regulations. Question 12. Market access strategy. The pricing committee of a pharmaceutical company is preparing a market access strategy for a new biologic medication. The biologic has shown promising results in clinical trials, but it is expected to be priced significantly higher than existing treatments. Which of the following strategies should the pricing committee prioritize to optimize market access for this product? A. The company should set the price as low as possible to maximize patient access, even if it means sacrificing profit margins. B. The pricing strategy should focus on demonstrating the clinical and economic value of the drug to payers, highlighting cost effectiveness and patient outcomes. C. The company should price the drug at the highest possible level to maximize profits, assuming that the high efficacy will justify the cost. D. The company should do pricing discussions until after the drug has been on the market for a year to assess initial demand. Answer. B. The pricing strategy should focus on demonstrating the clinical and economic value of the drug to payers, highlighting cost effectiveness and patient outcomes. Explanation. A well-developed market access strategy for high-cost biologic medications should focus on demonstrating the drug's value to both payers and healthcare providers. This includes presenting robust clinical data along with health economic data, such as cost-effect analyses to support the drug's value proposition. The strategy should emphasize how the drug improves patient outcomes, potentially reducing long-term healthcare costs and justifying its higher price compared to existing treatments. The other options are incorrect because A. While patient access is important, the price must also reflect the drug's value, and setting the price too low could undermine the company's ability to recoup research and development costs. C. Pricing the drug too high without demonstrating clear value could limit its acceptance by payers and result in limited market access. D. Delaying pricing discussions could result in missed opportunities for negotiating reimbursement rates and securing market access early on. Question 13. Real-world evidence and regulatory submissions. A pharmaceutical company has collected a large dataset of real-world evidence around the effectiveness and safety of a newly launched cancer drug. This data comes from electronic health records, insurance claims, and patient registries. The company is considering submitting OU to the regulatory authorities to support its post-market safety profile and label expansion, which following considerations is most important for ensuring the acceptance or in regulatory submissions. A. The company should submit early if it shows that the drug's efficacy exceeds the clinical trial results. B. URU should be robust, with sufficient sample size, appropriate study design, and transparent methodology ensuring that it can be used to complement clinical trial data. C. URU should be submitted as the primary evidence for approval, replacing clinical trial data entirely. D. The company should submit URU only if it confirms drug safety, ignoring efficacy data. Answer: B. URU should be robust, with sufficient sample size, appropriate study design, and transparent methodology ensuring that it can be used to complement clinical trial data. Explanation: real-world evidence can be a valuable complement to clinical trial data, particularly in post-market scenarios. Regulatory authorities like the FDA and EMA may accept URU to support label expansions or post-market safety monitoring, but it must be well designed and conducted with rigorous methodology. Sample size, study design, and transparency are critical to ensuring URU findings are credible and can complement clinical trial evidence. URU alone is rarely sufficient for initial approval, but it plays a key role in ongoing regulatory submissions. The other options are incorrect because A. The primary goal at URU is to augment clinical trial findings, not necessarily to show superior efficacy. URU cannot replace clinical trial data for initial approval but can be used to supplement or confirm findings post-market. D. Focusing solely on safety, URU may overlook important efficacy data that is also necessary for regulatory authorities. Question 14. Pharmacovigilance and drug safety monitoring. A pharmaceutical company has received several reports of rare but serious adverse events associated with a recently approved drug. The company is conducting a pharmacovigilance review to determine if there is a causal link between the drug and these adverse events. Which of the following actions should the company prioritize to ensure patient safety and regulatory compliance? A. The company should initiate an immediate recall of the drug from the market, regardless of the severity of the adverse events. B. The company should conduct a detailed risk-benefit analysis, update the drug safety profile, and notify the regulatory authorities, including the potential need for label changes. C. The company should only report the adverse events if they affect a significant number of patients. D. The company should wait for further event reports before taking any regulatory actions, as the current data is insufficient. Answer: B. The company should conduct a detailed risk-benefit analysis, update the drug safety profile, and notify the regulatory authorities, including the potential need for label changes. Explanation: pharmacovigilance involves continuously monitoring the safety of drug once it's on the market. When serious adverse events are reported, the company must assess the risk-benefit balance of the drug. Thorough analysis should be conducted, and the company must update its safety profile to reflect any new findings. The regulatory authorities must be informed, and label changes, warnings, or even restrictions on the drug's use may be necessary. Immediate recalls are typically reserved for situations of extreme risk to patient safety, which should be determined by the pharmacovigilance team. The other options are incorrect because a recall should only be initiated when there is clear imminent risk. Patient safety. Immediate recalls for minor or unverified issues could disrupt access to important treatments. C. Adverse events should be reported regardless of their frequency or severity to ensure all potential risks are evaluated. D. Waiting for further reports may delay necessary regulatory actions and put patients at risk. Question 15. Regulatory submissions and market authorization. A pharmaceutical company is preparing a new drug application (NDA) or a novel medication to treat a rare genetic disorder. The drug has shown strong efficacy in early-phase clinical trials, but the clinical data is limited due to the small patient population. The company is considering including the results from a compassionate use program as part of the NDA submission. Of the following is the most appropriate approach for incorporating this data into the submission? A. The company should include the compassionate use data as primary evidence of the drug's effectiveness, as it reflects real-world use. B. The company should include the compassionate use data only as supplementary evidence to support the primary clinical trial data and demonstrate broader experience with the drug. C. The company should exclude the compassionate use data from the submission to maintain the integrity of the clinical trial results. D. The company conduct separate, randomized controlled trial using compassionate use patients to generate additional data. Answer: B. The company should include the compassionate use data only as supplementary evidence to support the primary clinical trial data and demonstrate broader experience with the drug. Explanation: compassionate use programs provide access to investigational drugs for patients with serious conditions who have no other treatment options. While the data from these programs may provide valuable insights into the drug's safety and effectiveness in real setting, it is typically not as robust or controlled as data from clinical trials. Therefore, compassionate use data should be included as supplementary evidence to support the primary clinical trial data, not as the primary evidence. The other options are incorrect because a compassionate use data alone is not sufficient to support approval as it lacks the rigor of controlled clinical trials. C. Excluding relevant data could limit the comprehensiveness and potentially overlook useful real-world insights. D. Conducting new clinical trial with compassionate use patients would not be appropriate as the goal of compassionate use is to provide access to an investigational drug, not to generate new data for regulatory submission. Question 16. Ethical considerations in clinical research. A pharmaceutical company is conducting a clinical trial to evaluate the safety and efficacy of a new medication for treating rheumatoid arthritis. Some patients enrolled in the trial are unable to receive the standard of care for their condition due to the trial's inclusion criteria. The company is considering compensating patients for their participation in the trial but is concerned about potential ethical issues related to financial incentives. What is the most appropriate action the company should take to avoid ethical concerns? A. The company should provide financial compensation only for travel and other out-of-pocket expenses incurred by participants. B. The company should offer financial compensation that is not excessive, ensuring that it does not unduly influence participants' decision to enroll in the trial. C. The company should not offer any financial compensation to avoid conflicts of interest. D. The company should provide financial compensation that is proportional to the risk involved in the trial. Answer. B. The company should offer financial compensation that is not excessive, ensuring that it does not unduly influence participants' decision to enroll in the trial. Explanation. Financial compensation for clinical trial participation should be fair and designed to reimburse participants for their time and expenses without exerting undue influence on their decision to enroll. Offering compensation that is too high could create ethical concerns, as participants may be more motivated by financial incentives than the potential benefits or risks of the trial. The compensation should be reasonable and ensure that participants' decisions are based on the trial's potential benefits and risks, not just the financial reward. The other options are incorrect because A. While reimbursement for expenses is appropriate, compensation should be limited to just those costs. The compensation should also account for the time and inconvenience of participation. C. While avoiding conflicts of interest is important, refusing compensation altogether could deter participation in essential research studies. D. Proportional compensation based on risk is an option, but it is often more appropriate to offer general compensation based on time and expenses, rather than tying it directly to risk. Question 17. Market authorization and labeling requirements. The pharmaceutical company is seeking to market a new drug in multiple countries, including the US and European Union (EU). The drug has already received regulatory approval in several other regions. During the submission process, the company is concerned about the differences in labeling requirements between the US FDA and the European Medicines Agency (EMA). What should the company do to ensure that its labeling meets the regulatory standards in both regions? A. The company should submit the same labeling information to both the FDA and EMA, as long as the language is translated. B. The company should review the FDA and EMA labeling guidelines separately and prepare two distinct sets of labeling that comply with each agency's specific requirements. C. The company should submit single labeling document to both agencies and assume that any differences in requirements will be addressed during the review. D. The company should submit the FDA-approved labeling to the EMA, assuming the EU will accept it without changes. Answer. B. The company should review the FDA and EMA labeling guidelines separately and prepare two distinct sets of labeling that comply with each agency's specific requirements. Explanation. The US FDA and EMA have different requirements for drug labeling, including the format, content, and presentation of safety and efficacy information. The company must ensure that the labeling for each region complies with the specific regulatory guidelines. This may involve differences in the way adverse events, indications, and contraindications are presented, as well as language and formatting requirements. Therefore, it is essential to prepare separately documents for each regulatory authority The other options are incorrect because A. Simply translating the labeling is insufficient. It must comply with the specific regulatory guidelines of each region. C. A single labeling document would not meet the distinct requirements of both the FDA and EMA, potentially delaying the approval process. D. Assuming EU will accept the FDA labeling without changes is not advisable as its own set of regulatory standards that must be followed. Question 18. Biologics and regulatory challenges. A biologic drug has shown promising results in early clinical trials for treating autoimmune diseases. However, the company is concerned about the potential regulatory challenges it may face in securing approval for the drug in both the US and European Union. Which of the following steps is most important for the company to take to address these challenges? A. The company should focus solely on the US market and submit its application to the FDA before considering other regions. B. The company should engage early with regulatory authorities in both the US and the EU to discuss the clinical trial data and ensure alignment with the regulatory requirements. C. The company should only submit its application to the EMA once it receives FDA approval. D. The company should wait until the biologic has been on the market for a year before applying for approval in any region. Answer B. The company should engage early with regulatory authorities in both the US and EU to discuss the clinical trial data and ensure alignment with the regulatory requirements. Explanation. Biologics are subject to stringent regulatory requirements which can vary between regions. Engaging with regulatory authorities early in the process is crucial for addressing any potential issues with clinical trial design, data interpretation, or approval pathways. By proactively discussing the clinical data with both US FDA and the EMA, the company can ensure that its submission is aligned with the specific requirements of each agency, increasing the likelihood of a smooth approval process. The other options are incorrect because A. Focusing solely on the US market could delay approval in other regions and miss opportunities for global market access. C. Delaying submission to the EMA until after FDA approval is not necessary and could prolong the drug's time to market in Europe. D. Waiting until the drug has been on the market for a year would delay approval and could lead to missed market opportunities. Question 19. Post-marketing surveillance and risk management. A pharmaceutical company has recently received approval for a new medication to treat diabetes. The drug has shown positive results in clinical trials, but concerns about its potential long-term side effects persist. Which of the following strategies should the company prioritize in its post-marketing surveillance plan to address these concerns? A. The company should conduct a Phase 4 clinical trial to monitor long-term safety and efficacy with a focus on rare adverse events. B. The company should rely solely on spontaneous reporting systems to monitor safety post-market, as this provides a complete picture of the drug's risks. C. The company should focus on marketing the drug aggressively to gain widespread usage, assuming that any safety concerns will be identified later. Company should implement risk evaluation and mitigation strategy (REMS) to limit patient exposure while collecting safety data. Answer A. The company should conduct a Phase 4 clinical trial to monitor long-term safety and efficacy with a focus on rare adverse events. Explanation. The Phase 4 clinical trial post-marketing study is designed to collect additional data on the long-term safety and efficacy of a drug once it is available to a broader patient population. It can be critical for identifying rare adverse events that were not detected in earlier trials. The company should prioritize such trials as part of a comprehensive post-marketing surveillance plan to address ongoing concerns about the drug's long-term effects. The other options are incorrect because B. Relying solely on spontaneous reporting can lead to incomplete or biased data, which is insufficient for comprehensive risk assessment. C. Aggressive marketing without careful safety monitoring could increase patient exposure without addressing safety concerns. REMS strategy is typically used to mitigate known risks and may not be the most effective approach for collecting new safety data. Question 20. Global regulatory requirements for drug approval. A pharmaceutical company is planning to launch a new antiviral drug in multiple regions, including the US, Europe, and Asia. While the drug has demonstrated strong clinical efficacy and safety in early phase trials, the company faces challenges due to the differing regulatory requirements between these regions. What is the most effective strategy for the company to ensure a smooth global approval process? A. The company should submit regulatory applications for each region simultaneously, ensuring that all regions approve the drug at the same time. B. The company should prioritize approval in the US and Europe first, followed by submission to Asian regulatory authorities, as these regions have more rigorous standards. C. The company should engage with regulatory authorities in all regions early to understand their specific requirements and design a clinical development program that addresses these variations. D. The company should wait for approval in one region before submitting applications to others to minimize the risk of regulatory conflicts. Answer: C. The company should engage with regulatory authorities in all regions early to understand their specific requirements and design a clinical development program that addresses these variations. Explanation: engaging early with regulatory authorities in each region is crucial for understanding the unique requirements and expectations of different regulatory bodies. By initiating discussions early, the company can ensure that its clinical development program and regulatory submissions meet the specific needs of each region, thus minimizing the risk of delays or rejections. This proactive approach facilitates smoother submissions across multiple regions and helps to align the approval process in various markets. The other options are incorrect because A. Simultaneous submissions may not be practical due to differences in regulatory timelines, requirements, and processes. B. Priority approval in the US and Europe without engaging early with Asian regulators could lead to unnecessary delays or conflicts. D. Waiting for approval in one region before proceeding with others could result in missed opportunities and extended market entry timelines. Question 21. Orphan drug designation and development. A pharmaceutical company is developing a drug for a rare genetic disease affecting a small population. The company is considering applying for orphan drug designation in the US and Europe. What are the key benefits of obtaining orphan drug designation for the company, and how does this affect the regulatory process? A. Orphan drug designation guarantees faster approval but does not provide any financial incentives or market exclusivity. B. Orphan drug designation offers incentives like tax credits, grants, and market exclusivity, but it does not affect the clinical trial requirements. C. Orphan drug designation reduces the clinical trial requirements, allowing the company to bypass certain safety and efficacy tests. D. Orphan drug designation provides regulatory flexibility but does not affect the pricing or reimbursement process. Answer: B. Orphan drug designation offers incentives like tax credits, grants, and market exclusivity, but it does not affect the clinical trial requirements. Explanation: Orphan drug designation provides various benefits, including tax credits, grants for clinical research, and extended market exclusivity, which can be crucial for encouraging the development of treatments for rare diseases. However, obtaining this designation does not reduce the regulatory requirements for clinical trials. The company must still demonstrate the drug's safety and efficacy through rigorous clinical testing. The regulatory authorities may offer guidance to streamline the process, but clinical trial standards remain unchanged. The other options are incorrect because A. While orphan drug designation can accelerate the regulatory process, it does provide financial incentives and market exclusivity. C. Drug designation does not allow the company to bypass safety and efficacy requirements. D. While orphan drug designation can facilitate approval, it does not directly affect pricing or reimbursement decisions. Question 22. Biosimilars and regulatory pathways. A company is preparing to submit an application for a biosimilar to a widely used biologic drug. The biosimilar has shown similar safety, efficacy, and immunogenicity profiles in clinical trials. What is the key regulatory challenge the company may face in obtaining approval for the biosimilar, and how should it address this challenge? A. The company will need to provide evidence of the biosimilar's superiority over the original biologic in clinical trials to obtain approval. B. The company will need to demonstrate that the biosimilar is highly similar to the original biologic in terms of structure, function, and clinical outcomes, but clinical trials may be reduced in scope compared to those for the originator. C. The company must show that the biosimilar is identical to the originator in terms of manufacturing processes, which may require replicating the original drug's production techniques. D. The company will need to conduct large-scale, randomized controlled trials comparing the biosimilar to the originator in multiple patient populations. Answer: B. The company will need to demonstrate that the biosimilar is highly similar to the original biologic in terms of structure, function, and clinical outcomes, but clinical trials may be reduced in scope compared to those for the originator. Explanation: Biosimilars must demonstrate that they are highly similar to the reference biologic in terms of structure, function, and clinical outcomes. However, they do not need to replicate the entire trial program of the originator drug. Instead, the biosimilar company must provide evidence that the biosimilar performs similarly in terms of safety and efficacy, with reduced scope in clinical trials, often focusing on specific patient populations and endpoints. This regulatory pathway is designed to facilitate the introduction of biosimilars while ensuring patient safety. The other options are incorrect because A. Biosimilars are not required. Demonstrate superiority over the reference biologic. They must only show similarity. C. Biosimilars do not need to replicate the manufacturing process of the reference product exactly, though they must show that the manufacturing processes result in similar products. D. Large-scale, randomized controlled trials are typically not required for biosimilars, as their clinical development programs are more focused on demonstrating similarity to the originator. Question 23. Clinical trial design and regulatory compliance. A pharmaceutical company is designing a clinical trial for a new drug intended to treat chronic migraine. The trial is expected to involve several hundred patients, and the company plans to use a placebo-controlled, double-blind design to evaluate the drug's efficacy and safety. What is the most important factor the company should consider when designing the trial to regulatory compliance and patient safety? A. The trial should include as many patients as possible to ensure statistical significance, regardless of the diversity of the patient population. B. The trial should ensure that all participants are informed of the risks and benefits, with appropriate consent obtained from each participant. C. The trial should focus primarily on achieving the desired efficacy results, with safety monitoring secondary. D. The trial design should avoid any placebo components to minimize patient concerns about receiving placebo. Answer. B. The trial should ensure that all participants are informed of the risks and benefits, with appropriate consent obtained from each participant. Explanation. Informed consent is a fundamental ethical and regulatory requirement for any clinical trial. Ensuring that participants understand the potential risks and benefits of participating in the trial is crucial for patient safety and regulatory compliance. All participants must voluntarily agree to take part in the trial after being fully informed of the study's details. This ensures that the trial is conducted ethically and that participants' rights are protected. The other options are incorrect because A. While statistical significance is important, ensuring representative and diverse patient population is crucial for the generalizability of the results. C. Safety should be primary focus of the trial, along efficacy to protect patients from potential harm. D. Placebo-controlled trials are an accepted method for evaluating efficacy, but participants must be informed about the possibility of receiving placebo, and the study should not deceive them. Question 24. Regulatory requirements for combination products. A company is developing a combination product consisting of a drug and a medical device designed to administer the drug in a novel manner. The product has already undergone successful preclinical testing. What are the key regulatory considerations the company must address when submitting a combined drug-device product for approval? A. The company should submit a single application for the combination product, as it is considered one entity, subject to the regulatory requirements for drugs only. B. The company must submit separate applications for the drug and the device components, as they are regulated by different authorities. C. The company should only submit a drug application and focus on the clinical testing of the drug, as the device component will not be scrutinized. The company should seek approval for the drug and device components together, but follow the regulatory requirements for medical devices first. Answer. B. The company must submit separate applications for the drug and the device components, as they are regulated by different authorities. Explanation. Combination products, which include both a drug and a medical device, must comply with the regulatory requirements of both drug and device regulations in the U.S. The FDA typically requires companies to submit separate applications for the drug and device components, which are then reviewed by the appropriate divisions of the FDA. G. The Center for Drug Evaluation and Research and the Center for Devices and Radiological Health. The company must ensure that both components meet the regulatory standards for safety and efficacy. The other options are incorrect because A. A combination product is regulated solely as a drug or device, so both components must meet the requirements for their respective categories. C. The device component must also undergo regulatory scrutiny and approval, so focusing only on the drug would not suffice. D. While the combination product should be considered as a whole, the regulatory authorities will evaluate both the drug and device components in accordance with their specific regulations, not only as a medical device. Question 25. Post-market surveillance for medical devices. A company has launched a new medical device that has been approved by the FDA. Shortly after commercialization, several users report unexpected side effects related to the device. What is the most critical regulatory requirement the company must adhere to in response to these reports? A. The company must immediately withdraw the product from the market to prevent further adverse events. B. The company must report the adverse events to the FDA within 30 days and initiate an investigation to determine the cause. C. The company must notify the FDA only if the adverse events are directly related to device malfunction or failure. D. The company must wait for more reports from consumers before taking any action. Answer: B. The company must report the adverse events to the FDA within 30 days and initiate an investigation to determine the cause. Explanation: under FDA regulations, manufacturers are required to report adverse events related to medical devices within a specified time frame, usually within 30 days. Additionally, the company must investigate the cause of the adverse events and take corrective actions if necessary to ensure safety. This post-market surveillance is critical for identifying and mitigating risks associated with devices after they are placed on the market. The other options are incorrect because A. While withdrawing a product may be necessary in extreme cases, the first step is to investigate and report the events to the FDA. C. The company must report all adverse events, not just those related to device malfunction. D. Waiting for it. Reports before taking action could delay necessary interventions to protect public health. Question 26. Clinical trial data and good clinical practice. A pharmaceutical company has completed a clinical trial for a new oncology drug and is preparing to submit its results for regulatory review. During the final data collection phase, the company discovered that certain trial sites had not adhered to the Good Clinical Practice (GCP) guidelines. What should the company do before submitting the trial data? Regulatory authority. A. The company should proceed with the submission as long as the data from the majority of sites is valid. B. The company should correct the GCP violations, revalidate the affected data, and ensure that the trial meets GCP standards before submission. C. The company should ignore the GCP violations if they are limited to a small number of trial sites. D. The company should submit the data with a detailed explanation of the GCP violations, leaving it to the regulatory authority to assess their impact. Answer: B. The company should correct the GCP violations, revalidate the affected data, and ensure that the trial meets GCP standards before submission. Explanation: Good clinical practice (GCP) is essential for ensuring the integrity and reliability of clinical trial data. As GCP violations are identified, the company must address them by correcting any issues and revalidating the affected data before submitting it to regulatory authorities. Regulatory bodies, such as the FDA or EMA, require that clinical trials adhere to GCP standards to ensure that the trial data is accurate, reliable, and reflective of the true safety and efficacy of the drug. The other options are incorrect because A. Proceeding with the submission without addressing GCP violations could lead to the rejection of the data or approval delays. C. Ignoring GCP violations, even if limited to the number of sites, undermines the credibility of the trial results. D. While it is important to discuss GCP violations, the company should first correct the issues to maintain the integrity of the data. Question 27. Pharmaceutical advertising and regulatory compliance. A pharmaceutical company is planning a direct-to-consumer advertising campaign for a new prescription drug. The campaign will include TV commercials, print ads, and social media content. What are the key regulatory requirements the company must follow to ensure that the campaign is compliant with FDA guidelines? A. The company must ensure that the ads are balanced, presenting both the benefits and risks of the drug and include the FDA-approved labeling information. B. The company must focus only on the benefits of the drug in the ads, as consumers are unlikely to understand the risks. C. The company is not required to include risk information in the ads as long as the drug is marketed for a rare condition. D. The company must submit the ads to the FDA approval before airing or publishing them. Answer A. The company must ensure that the ads are balanced, presenting both the benefits and risks of the drug and include the FDA-approved labeling information. Explanation. The FDA's regulations for pharmaceutical advertising require that ads present balanced view of both the benefits and risks of the drug. This includes providing clear and accurate description of the risks associated with the drug and including the FDA-approved labeling information in advertisement. The goal is to provide consumers with the information necessary to make informed decisions about their health. The other options are incorrect because B. Advertising that only focuses on the benefits without disclosing risks is misleading and non-compliant with FDA guidelines. C. All pharmaceutical advertisements, regardless of the condition treated, must include risk information. D. While ads must be truthful and not misleading, FDA does not require pre-approval for advertising but may require submission if requested for compliance review. Question 20. Risk management and REMS programs. A pharmaceutical company is developing a drug that has been shown to have potential safety risks in specific patient populations. The FDA has recommended the company implement a risk evaluation and mitigation strategy, REMS, to ensure the drug's safe use. What key elements should the company include in its REMS program? A. The REMS program should include strategies for restricting access to the drug, such as requiring patients to be enrolled in registry before receiving the drug. B. The REMS program should only include safety warnings and do not need to address risk minimization strategies. C. The REMS program should focus solely on informing healthcare professionals of the drug's risks and does not require patient involvement. D. The REMS program should only require the company to monitor the drug's safety post-market and does not involve pre-treatment requirements. Answer A. The REMS program should include strategies for restricting access to the drug, such as requiring patients to be enrolled in a registry before receiving the drug. Explanation. A risk evaluation and mitigation strategy, REMS, is a regulatory tool used by the FDA to manage the risks associated with certain drugs. For drugs with significant safety concerns, the REMS program may require restricted distribution, patient enrollment in a registry, and healthcare provider training. This helps ensure that the drug is used safely and that patients are closely monitored to prevent adverse effects. The other options are incorrect because B. The REMS program must include risk minimization strategies, not just safety warnings. C. While healthcare providers must be informed, REMS programs often involve patient monitoring and education as well. D. REMS programs require pre-treatment and post-market strategies to ensure the safe use of the drug. Question 29. International clinical trials and IC guidelines. A company is planning to conduct a global clinical trial for a new immunotherapy treatment with sites in multiple countries across Europe, Asia, and North America. What international guidelines should the company follow to ensure that the trial meets regulatory requirements and ethical standards? A. The company should follow the guidelines set by the country in which the trial is conducted, as each country has unique requirements. B. The company should follow the International Conference on Harmonization, Good Clinical Practice (GCP) guidelines, which are internationally recognized. C. The company should only adhere to the regulatory requirements of the U.S., as this is where the primary market for the drug is located. D. The company should rely on the guidance of local regulatory bodies in each country and conduct the trial based solely on their requirements. Answer. B. The company should follow the International Conference on Harmonization, Good Clinical Practice (GCP) guidelines, which are internationally recognized. Explanation. The GCP guidelines are internationally recognized standards for the design, conduct, monitoring, and reporting of clinical trials. These guidelines ensure that trials are ethically conducted and that data are reliable and accurate. Following GCP ensures consistent across international sites and helps the company meet regulatory requirements in multiple countries. The other options are incorrect because A. While each country may have specific requirements, a GCP provides a unified standard that is accepted globally. C. Adhering only to U.S. requirements would limit the company's ability to conduct the trial internationally. D. While local regulations are important, GCP serves as a comprehensive framework for conducting trials in multiple countries. Question 30. Drug supply chain and serialization requirements. A pharmaceutical company is preparing to launch a new drug in the U.S. and Europe. Both regions have implemented serialization requirements for drug products as part of efforts to reduce counterfeiting and improve tracking. What key steps should the company take to comply with these serialization requirements? A. The company should ensure that each package of the drug is labeled with a unique serial number and that the serial number is recorded in a central database for tracking. B. The company should focus only on labeling the drug packages in the US and ignore serialization requirements in Europe. C. The company should only ensure that the primary drug packaging is serialized, as the other packaging is not required. D. The company should avoid serialization altogether to reduce costs associated with tracking. Answer A. The company should ensure that each package of the drug is labeled with a unique serial number and that the serial number is recorded in a central database for tracking. Explanation: serialization is a critical part of efforts to prevent counterfeit drugs from entering the supply chain. Both the US and European regulations require that each drug package is labeled with a unique serial number, which is then recorded in a central database for tracking purposes. This helps ensure that drugs can be traced throughout the supply chain, increasing the safety and security of the pharmaceutical market. The other options are incorrect because B. Both US and European regulations require serialization, and ignoring the requirements in Europe would result in non-compliance. C. Serialization applies to both primary and secondary packaging in many jurisdictions. D. Serialization is a regulatory requirement and cannot be avoided to reduce costs.